a Brannon House Television Network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, I am Tamara Scott. It's the Tamara Scott Show. Here we are on Tuesday. It feels like Monday to me for some reason. It's Tuesday, April 7th. Thank you for joining us as we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. No matter what it is, if he expects you to live through it, he's directed you how to do it somewhere in his word. So we try to talk about all the issues that we're going to face, no matter what they are. We try to give you a little bit of a biblical perspective, worldview on them, because God has a way for you. He's directed you in everything that he expects you to have to deal with. All right, so I'm back into the wool. It's cold here. I feel so bad. I brushed the horse out and brushed all the winter coat. I was careful. But it's chilly once again. I hope she's warm in her pasture. And I'm fussing about this, thinking about our guest is from Canada. It might be a little chillier up there, and here I am. But it's in the 20s again. It's cold. We weren't expecting this. My guest is Alex Schadenberg. We always appreciate Alex, the work that he does, protecting life at the end of life. The end of life is now under threat in so many countries. He's the executive director of euthanasia prevention in Euthanasia Prevention Coalition in Canada, and also active here in the United States, as well as having his thumb on the pulse across the globe. Alex, thank you for joining us today on the Tamara Scott Show.
Hey, hi Tamara. It's great being with you. We've done a few shows before, and I'm always pleased to be interviewed by you. I think you're always right on top of things, so it's really good.
Thank you. Well, one of the reasons I can be is because of the research your organization does. You put the links where they're easy to find. Your information is also brief. It's something that's going to be easily readable for every reader, no matter what level they are as far as awareness of this topic. So thank you. And I was wondering today, Alex, thank you for this work. You have done this as long as I've known you, which is, gosh, at least over a decade, I think. And you, I don't know when you, was it in the 90s that you started doing this?
Yeah, I started working on this in the 90s. So it's about 27 years now. So a very long time I've been working on these issues of end of life. And I foresaw a long time ago that the culture was shifting so that, pretty soon there'd be a great threat to our lives as we approach death. But, the funny thing is it's not actually even as we approach death, because this whole concept of who we're going to approve to be killed by assisted suicide or euthanasia has expanded so greatly because it was sold to us as being all about end of life and freedom of choice and autonomy. But now it's all about ending people's lives when they're going through a difficult time. So this is what it's become down to, and we might want to talk about some of those stories today. I know obviously there's a lot of scary things that are going on, and it's important to oppose it.
Absolutely, we want to talk about, and I may even play a couple of minutes of the video of the police coming to get the 102-year-old man out of his son's home. I just can't. I think the man held it together very well at 102 years of age. I think the son held it together very well. That would not fly in America, and they know you all don't have weapons for a reason. Gosh, this is just so much further along than people recognize. All right, so the last time we talked, I think, about the numbers in Canada, it was 2025, and it was 90,000 Canadians had been euthanized in one manner or another. What is your number now, do you estimate?
Well, we're approaching 100,000. I'm actually estimating that we will surpass 100,000 by mid-April. So we're actually doing an event on Parliament Hill next week, April 13th. And one of the things we're doing is we're talking about how sad it is that we've surpassed we'll have surpassed 100,000 deaths at that point in Canada since legalization. And it's really grown in the numbers of deaths. So, we're well over 5% of all deaths now. Quebec is around 8% of all deaths right now. But, further to that, the types of deaths and who is being killed by euthanasia is really expanded. So in Canada, we had this very sad story come out in early January of a young man from Ontario who was diabetic, who was 26 years old, who was killed by Dr. Ellen Wiebe. So he was killed by euthanasia by Dr. Ellen Wiebe, who runs a death clinic in Vancouver. So he wasn't approved to be killed in Ontario, but he did his doctor shopping. He found Dr. Wiebe in British Columbia who was willing to kill him. He flew to Vancouver in December and was killed on December 30th. His family was shocked by this because he was a diabetic, and because he was a diabetic, he'd also lost some of his eyesight. Sometimes when one's blood sugar isn't properly controlled for a period of time, they start losing their eyesight. So, but he was technically legally blind, but he was reasonably healthy, but he was very depressed, and he had been going through a lot of mental health issues. And his mother was just shocked that a doctor would kill him, when in fact what he needed was good care for his mental health. And this is the kind of thing you get when you legalize killing. It expands and it expands and it expands because there's always somebody willing to do the killing.
Absolutely. So I want to get to some of these, and I'm glad you mentioned the Parliament Hill. I sent that to a couple of folks I know in Canada, as well as a mayor of one of the cities in Canada. But let's get to some of these stories because people think it's a tragic, emotional issue. We've heard about comfort care. We've heard about death with dignity. It never stays at that. Greed, government somebody is always willing to cross the line. And we're going to get to some of those stories today. So I sent an email to you. I just kind of went down your list. Oh my goodness. Let's start. Number one, mercy to manslaughter, I think is number one. Well, okay. Okay, let's first talk. Life is worth living. I want you to know when I tried to go to that website, lifeworthlivingfilm.com. In fact, Logan or Thomas, if you can try to go to lifeworthliving.com, it would not let me on. It said it was a private website. It may be impersonating someone with my personal information. I think it's a tool of, is it Safari or Google or whoever? I think it's a tool for them to stop people from finding that link. Thomas, can you go to that link and see if you can get there? It's not working. Can you show our viewers what it shows?
I will have to get it fixed immediately.
I just want you to see that, Alex. I believe everything's in working order. I just think they're trying to stop us from getting there.
I have no idea why it's doing this. That's craziness. That's obviously preventing people from being able to see the trailer of the film and purchase the film. But Life Worth Living film has been very successful. We released it on January 1st, and it deals with a lot of the stories out of Canada of what's going on with euthanasia. And it's very powerful. It features several people with family stories, such as Alicia Duncan, whose mother died by euthanasia, who only had a head injury after a car accident. And because of her, basically she was having headaches and things like that, she became very depressed, and she was offered euthanasia and died by euthanasia. But the family was shocked by this because of the fact that she wasn't really given proper care for her head injury that she had after a car accident. But further to that, we interviewed quite a few doctors who've been involved in this issue and others. So it's a very powerful film. It's exactly 60 minutes. It's won several awards, but it's terrible that you can't get to it. I'm gonna have to contact the web guy right away. It's almost embarrassing. I'm on TV right now talking about a film that you can't even access right now. You can actually go to Salem Now. If you go to Salem Now and put in Life Worth Living film, you'll find that it pops up, and you can purchase it and watch the trailer through Salem Now, because we also had a contract with them for promoting and distribution of the film.
Yeah, no, I don't think you should be embarrassed at all. I think it's a ploy. I think it's some way of distracting or keeping people from getting to the site. I really do. And so now we have the option for folks. Salem Now, try that one, Salem Now, and then try the lifeworthlivingfilm.com. Here's the deal, Alex. There you go, right there. See, so glad we were able. Thank you for that. So there you go, viewers. And it's only, what is it? What's the price for us in America?
Well, $11.99 Canadian. Well, Salem Now actually charges, I believe, $9.99 for the film to download it and then to view it for one-time viewing. They give you 3 days, a code that's good for 3 days. I believe that's $6.99 at Salem now, and that would be in US dollars. On LifeWorthLivingFilm.com, it was based on Canadian dollars, $11.99. I don't know, maybe that's about 3 cents US. I don't know, like the Canadian dollar is so ridiculous now. But actually,
Very,
it's probably more like $8 US or something like that. Yeah.
very reasonable. So for those of you who have prayer
Yeah.
groups, Bible studies, Sunday school classes, great way for you to get that, show it to the group. You can have discussion afterwards. I'm so glad we found that other alternative. We'll be right back after this break with Alex Shadenberg. More stories you need to hear. Stay tuned. I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023, in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty in items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. All right, I'm talking with Alex Shadenberg, Executive Director of Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. That's EPCC dot, I better check and make sure, epcc.ca, CA for Canada. Alex, again, thank you for joining us today. Do you want to start in on this mercy turning to manslaughter story?
Well, it's a story out of Colorado. So Colorado does have legal assisted suicide. There are 13 states now in the US that have legalized assisted suicide. So as crazy as Canada is, and it is crazy, we're killing huge numbers of people through what they call MAID. The U.S. is heading this direction, and it's important to stop that. But anyway, Colorado does have legal assisted suicide, a group called the Final Exit Network. And I don't like talking about them because they're what you call your renegade assisted suicide group. They provide instructions to help people kill themselves or help people to kill others who are wanting to die, etc. And they have all these different methods that they promote. So I guess I've given too much information already. What happened is a woman, elderly woman, her daughter attended a Final Exit Network seminar and found out how to kill her mother. She decided to go ahead and do so. She said her mother had some Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. And so she and her brother-in-law ordered all the things they would need to do this, and they ended up killing their, in this case was her daughter, or in this case, a mother-in-law. They ended up killing her. Now, this was originally treated as an assisted suicide, even though, of course, it wasn't an assisted suicide. There was no doctors involved in it, nor should any assisted suicide be considered an acceptable act, because once again, that's about killing people. But now they have upgraded those charges to manslaughter on those two, and there'll be a trial on this whole issue. Now, what's important about this is the concept of why is it okay to kill? Is it ever okay to kill? And so here see a situation where assisted suicide has been legal in 13 states. Final Exit Network primarily focuses on U.S. states that have not legalized assisted suicide. So what they do is they go into those states, they sell their products, they sign people up as members, etc., in order to help be involved with killing them. And then, of course, they do so in such a way where they give instructions that you hide the materials you use or take them away with you after you do the act, so it looks like this elderly person just died naturally. So there's quite a few assisted suicide, or these are actually homicide deaths. They're euthanasia deaths per se, that are happening all over the U.S., but no one knows about it because the equipment that was used to kill you is removed. In this case, I'm not going to give you more information, but the woman was found with the suicide material there, and then they were able to trace back exactly what happened to her. But this is the kind of concept. If it's okay to kill one person, why isn't it okay to kill another person? They said that this woman didn't qualify for assisted suicide. That's why they were doing it. She wasn't terminally ill. She wasn't dying. She obviously had some serious cognitive issues, and that's why the daughter had decided to do this. So you see this whole role. Now in Canada, sadly, this woman might have qualified to be killed, and they might have gone that route. So some people would say, well, the problem is that we haven't expanded this practice enough, and it's so sad that these people had to kill their mother. Now let's start thinking about that sort of comment. It's so sad that they had to kill their mother. This is the kind of thing we're dealing with. This is not that uncommon either. Final Exit Networks had quite a few times where there were charges against it. In fact, there was a case a few years ago in Minnesota where actually the Attorney General of Minnesota took them to court, the organization.
So I want to get there, but there's more on this one. I want people to fully understand. So I've got all of those links. Thank you to your organization. But I just want people to understand, first off, the residential facility where her mother was living gave the webinar on how to help someone kill themselves. That, to me, I would be yanking my parent out of there before the next breath. I would be yanking them back home with me.
Right.
They don't provide.
In fact, they had approved the webinar, so obviously when the daughter was attending that webinar, it was at the facility where the mother was living. That's correct. So they were encouraging suicide to occur, and this is a crazy situation. Yeah. Of the residents. Yeah.
Wow. Yep. And then this is from the article from Kelsey Sharon at April 2nd on your website or your blog site. And so it says that they are a domestic threat to elders. They don't provide hospice. They don't provide comfort care. They provide a technical manual for suicide. They fly across the country, whispering in the ears of fearful, telling them it's their civil right to quit. And it is predatory, P-R-E-Y. It is predatory because they're going after the elderly, telling them what an inconvenience, that they're going to go through their inheritance, and we know that our loved ones often feel that way. They feel like they're a burden. And this is just so bizarre to me. And so the fact that the equipment was still in the room. And then if I go to an earlier article that you wrote, and I know you don't want to talk about the way this is done for those who may be
I don't like getting into that because we're talking about suicide. And there's some people who are going through a lot of mental health anguish, and I don't want to give them thoughts. So.
Yep. But basically what I'm hearing is it's almost an asphyxiation. This doesn't sound painless to me.
No. Like it is death by asphyxiation, that's correct. And they do it to the person. Now, in this case, it's even worse because if you read the article further, it talks about in Colorado how the daughter had contacted the Final Exit Network to ask them questions because she wanted to make sure that what she was doing was accurate. So the Final Exit Network wasn't actually charged in this case, even though I think they probably should have been because they were providing information to the daughter for the purpose of homicide. So it's like the guy from from the mob who's going to do his first killing. He calls up the head killer and says, I just want to make sure I've got this right. And he gives him all the instructions to make sure, he does it all right. And yes, of course, that's being complicit in the act because he's giving him all the instructions to do his first killing. And in this case, this was exactly the case. This obviously was his family's first killing. And but this is not uncommon. It isn't uncommon. It's very common. This is an organization that should be labeled a criminal organization. There's other criminal organizations that we know of in the U.S. and Canada. These are organizations that are often, connected to groups outside of the country that have other motives. And so we've named them as criminal organizations because they're actually doing criminal acts within our countries. I think the Final Exit Network's the same. Now, just so you go one step further, in Canada, we've got something called Dying with Dignity, and they do exactly the same sort of idea. They have these seminars in nursing homes and things like that, to encourage more killing. So one of the reasons Canada's death numbers are so high is the fact that it's constantly being promoted.
And as one of, I think it was Kelsey said, this is not compassion, this is a transaction. And what we're seeing
Right.
in this case was inheritance waiting. And so, and even the daughter was saying, we need to talk about whether or not mom needs a will. We need to write a suicide note. She needs to write a suicide note. She really
Yep.
couldn't today. So whether it's because her mind wasn't there or maybe her heart wasn't there, either way, that her daughter, this woman gave her daughter birth, and this daughter is taking her life, planning,
Well,
premeditating,
well,
taking her life.
as the article states, the mother had around $650,000 that would go to them in the inheritance. Now, $650,000 is a significant sum of money. It's not millions, but it's still a significant sum of money. And in this case, I guess they didn't want her to use it up being cared for in a nursing home. It's, I guess, better to kill off mom and inherit the money early. So this was a case that actually I believe happened in 2023, and now we're in 2026, and they finally have upgraded. They originally brought forward charges last year, and then that recent article was about the upgraded charges to manslaughter. So manslaughter is what you'd call like a third-degree homicide. I think it's actually inaccurate because this would definitely have been, premeditated because they planned it. So
Absolutely.
a manslaughter is usually not a premeditated death. Usually a manslaughter would be a situation where you didn't intend to do it, but you clearly did do it, meaning you did an act that caused that person's death. It was your fault. You actually did it without a question, but you didn't plan it ahead of time. You didn't plan it. You didn't mean it. You just happened to do it, you know?
And so we obviously have the daughter planning it out, wanting the note written, buying the right equipment, checking to ensure it was correct. But the son son was a brother-in-law was
The
also in on
brother-in-law, yeah.
purchasing the equipment. So I think there's an accomplice there as well. This is
Right. The,
this is
the brother-in-law set it up a bit. Plus, he ordered some of the material through Amazon for her, but he helped to set it up. And once again, I don't want to describe these deaths because I don't want to give people ideas.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned I believe it was Minnesota. We've got maybe 4 minutes before we go to a break. Go ahead and take us to Minnesota.
Oh, that was several years ago. There was a death in Minnesota, so that ended up going through the courts. That was once again a Final Exit Network death. But there's been quite a few of them. Like the whole Minnesota case, I don't quite remember. I do know what happened is that the Attorney General at the time had charged the Final Exit Network themselves because they had the ones who had arranged it. They were the ones who made sure it got carried out, and they were, as an organization at that time, convicted. There was a case just in New York about 2 years ago of an elderly physician. So he was a retired physician who was volunteering with the Final Exit Network, and he killed a woman in a hotel room. And because of his age, he was convicted, but there was no actual sentence that he received because he was so elderly. He was in his 80s. But this is the kind of thing, and there's many of these deaths, but and there's many of them that people might know about because it might have happened to your mother or your cousin, and you heard that this is what happened, but it's not something that's well known in the public because usually the Final Exit Network gives the instructions that you remove everything. So when the person's found and let's say they're dead in their bed, and they're elderly and they're dead in their bed, there's usually no suspicion. Like someone who's like 84 years old or 92 years old and has died in the nursing home in their bed, almost never is there an autopsy because why would you question? You just found a person dead, right?
Right, right. And so you're talking about I believe it is that Stephen P. Miller of Tucson, Arizona, former doctor advisory board member of the group
Yep.
Choice and Dignity, was arrested and charged with the manslaughter in the New York hotel. And that was a 59-year-old Doreen Broadhead individual. Yep. I don't know what her diagnosis was, but I want to come back to the Minnesota one just briefly. Her name is Doreen Dunn, different Doreen, by the way.
Doreen Dunn, yes.
Yep. And that was 2007, I think it was, 5/30/2007. And in her case, again, she had pain and depression. She had no life-threatening illness. Her family was puzzled by her death. There were good things happening in her life. Her daughter had been in Africa for about a year, was coming home the next day. her son's fiance scheduled to give birth that week. And her husband, yes, there were marital issues and he was planning to move out. But it was almost like somebody wanted her gone before she had a will to stay. Like they could talk
Right.
to her.
Now, she might have been going through deep depression. A lot of these people are going through deep depression and they become suicidal. Sadly, suicidal ideation is part of the human condition. A lot of people have serious bouts with suicide, but nonetheless, she had contacted the Final Exit Network, which is true.
Yeah.
They had arranged it and they made sure she was killed.
And I think the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the conviction
Yes,
on this.
correct.
And then
Yeah.
and then also they mentioned one in Georgia. So I just want our Americans to know, we think Canada might be really on the edge of this, but this is happening right here in our states. And I don't know. I have not studied to see if these states are red or blue. I don't know. The fact is, it's happening. So this is one that's in Georgia. The Final Exit Network now been prosecuted in several assisted suicide cases in Georgia. The suicide of John Selmer, who was depressed after recovering from cancer. He was on the way up. Things were to get better. And his wife testified against the Final Exit Network on that one. And then another one, most vulnerable, Larry Egbert, former medical director of the Final Exit Network, lost his medical license in Maryland.
That's right. Yes, that was because he was involved with approving these. So people would contact him and he would give them the information. And it's funny that a group like Final Exit Network actually had a medical director. These are a bunch of killers, but he was, as I say, a retired physician, and he was the medical director for them. But he lost his medical license over this. Yes, killing people.
As he should, right? As he should.
Well, he should have been put in jail. But because a lot of these cases are so difficult to prosecute, because as I say, they do it like the mob. It's really like the mob if you think about it. They do a killing and they remove any sort of evidence, and usually it's someone who has health issues. As in the case of John Selmer, he was recovered, but once again he was very depressed, and that's why his wife got really involved in it. She just couldn't believe that this guy had died. Now, going through depression should not be a death sentence. You know, that's a cry for help when someone actually says, yes, we're going to help you, not kill you.
Which is why I have talked since 2002 with experts about the dangers of antipsychotics, antidepressants, which also have suicidal fascination, and ideation and homicidal fascination. It's black box warnings. Yep. And so I don't want to put on the tinfoil hair right now, but imagine if they can continue to talk people into being depressed, even our pastors talking about how it's just part of life. No, it's not. And we have studies that talk about when you read the Bible, when you sing worship songs, what it does to your brain and the elevation and the increase in your emotions and your emotional state, and it can bring you out of anxiety. We've got the help. People are suppressing the truth. We've got to go to break. Alex would be right back. I'll let you pick up where we left off, and I also want to play a quick video, a portion of the video of the 102-year-old man. Stay tuned.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Well, much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. WorldviewWater.net. WorldviewWater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. WorldviewWater.net.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer, because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate, the good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help with Numi Neuro, the mango colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at Neumi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best. Alex Schadenberg is my guest. He is the Executive Director of Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Alex, I promised you I'd come back to you in case you wanted to add anything in at that last segment. Here you go.
Well, I liked your ending because actually the studies show that people who have a faith background, who are believers, are far less likely to consider suicide. Now, it doesn't. I wish they didn't ever consider it. It's always a tragedy when someone dies by suicide. Nonetheless, that is probably one of the main factors for people who are not ever considering suicide, is that they have faith and therefore they don't consider it even to be an option. And I think that's an important comment.
Right. And our friend, I can't think of his name, is it Kevin Brown? Fatal Flaws film, which is another good movie if you have not seen it, friends. It's a little older
Kevin
now.
Dunn, we were co-producers of that film, yes.
Kevin Dunn. All right. Another good film to have. But I think it was it maybe him or was it you that said, we're finding that the people who are candidates, who are vulnerable for assisted suicide or euthanasia, are not in great pain. It's not that they have terminal illness. It's that they're lonely and despondent.
Right. That's the primary important issue here, is that most often these people are very lonely, or they're on their own. They often feel like they've lost meaning, they've lost hope, they've lost the value of life. And because of that, they're seeking a way out. If you consider assisted suicide, euthanasia, and all the issues around why people are asking to be killed, and then you consider suicide, you realize that they're very similar issues. They're very, very, very similar. And that's why, saying, yes, it's okay, we'll kill you, is not about freedom, choice, or autonomy. On top of it, of course, it's somebody else saying it to you. But it is about abandoning these people who are at a clear time of need, where they need support, they need good care, but what they're getting is someone saying, yes, I agree, your life's not worth living. In fact, in the case of euthanasia, I'll actually kill you. I will kill you.
So tragic. And of course, we're in America, a little bit different than Canada, but our own Declaration of Independence, the preamble says that we're endowed, that these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So it just, that we're even letting this fly here in America astounds me, just astounds me. All right. You ready to go to the video of the 100?
I'm ready. Yes.
All right. So Logan, I believe that is clip 8, if you will, and I'm going to have you start at the beginning, and let's just go for a couple minutes. Alex, if you want to break in, you're certainly welcome to. We'll just do a couple of minutes here in the beginning, maybe to 3:10, and then maybe we'll come back on at 3:10 when the gentleman is obviously very well aware, very cognitive, that his daughter is not deceived, that she's deceived him. So let's go. Thomas.
Dad, the police is here to take you away. Donna wants you to be taken away with the police. Okay? You can tell the police officer what you want.
Where you gonna put me?
Come here. Come closer. Come closer.
I just don't go and they throw me out.
No, I'm not opening the door. I told you that. What don't you understand? You can break the glass and take them by force. Well, then that's it. Yeah, I know the reason you're here. Because you have an order to extract them out of the house. Yeah.
I know my lawyer here.
Just hang on. What did you say?
My lawyer comes, I go.
You don't have a lawyer. He says if his lawyer comes, he'll talk to his lawyer.
Okay, well, the judge is
My
already
lawyer.
decided, and the judge overrides that decision by the lawyers.
Well, he's got capacity. He has capacity. Okay? So he can make his own decisions. There's no ruling that he doesn't have capacity.
Okay, and I understand he can make his own decisions.
That's right.
The judge has kind of overridden all of our decisions. So,
Not his decision. Not his decision.
so what we'd like to do is have him come with us, and then Donna can just take him back.
No, that's not happening. Okay?
Why not?
Because he's got capacity. He wants to stay here. He wants to live here, and he wants to die here.
How do I know that that's the case? I can't even hear him say that.
Okay, you want to hear him say that? Okay, come here.
What?
Come on up here. Come on up.
Go ahead, John. What do you want?
Okay, that's the police. They want to take you away to the home.
Oh, no, I got no home, no place. I got here. I
Well, I'm not opening the door. If you can't hear, then you got to break the glass.
I arrange place mine to go to the old home.
She,
Myself, I don't need no help here or anything. I just on the way today to see where I gonna go and retire.
Okay.
Now it's my place and my sons, and we are all in peace. Got no problem. We working on and put everything in place what it's supposed to be. We don't need policemen and everything. We're not fighting or anything at all. We're doing right way with the lawyers and whatever needed police, the police gonna be involved if the lawyer ask for it.
All right, let's break there. Alex, the gentleman obviously has his wits about him. The police, and a little bit later, tried to say, "Don't you want to see your daughter?" Oh, so shameful of this manipulation. And thankfully, the dad said, "No, she can come here." And the son said she's deceived him. Talk to our viewers. Is this common? Is this Canada?
Well, that was an OPP police officer, so that'd be an Ontario situation. What you get is a situation where someone has possibly, I don't know the full story here, but I do know that they were taking him away because they were questioning whether he was competent, and his daughter, I guess, had been given the power of attorney to make decisions for him. So therefore, she was ordering him to go back to the institution, which seems to me to be quite ridiculous. Why would you do that when he seems to be happy living with his family at home? So, why would you do that to someone? Nonetheless, this is what seems to be the case. Now, here's the problem here is the situations around power of attorney issues. And it's not just an Ontario or Canadian situation. It also happens in the US, because you get these situations where once someone has lost or someone has decided that someone doesn't have a cognitive ability, then somebody else suddenly has the right to make decisions for them. And this becomes very problematic. So we also hear of these same type of cases, not in medical treatment or in controlling somebody, in healthcare issues. I got a call, in financial issues. I got a call from a woman just recently who was helping out her neighbor, and her neighbor was told that she was terminally ill. Her neighbor had been in hospice, this is in Ontario, had been in hospice for 3 months. She was eating fine. She wasn't dying, but because the doctor had told the family that their mother was dying, the one daughter who had power of attorney over everything sold off the house, sold everything, and took all the money. So there was no money in this woman's bank account anymore. She had nothing, and yet she was competent. She was living in palliative care. She wasn't dying. In this case, of course, she could have had MAID in Canada. They could have killed her if she had asked for it, but she didn't want to die. And you have a neighbor then who's trying to help her out and trying to get her out of there and get her somewhere to live. This is the kind of thing you do get when you have these type of situations. And it doesn't only happen in Canada, it happens in the US too when someone takes control over someone else's life.
This is so heartbreaking. These individuals have most likely been great parents. They've given their lives. They've many of them from the greatest generation here in America, and gosh, to see them greed, government, control, thinking you know best. For us as Christians, God is the giver and the taker of life. It is not ours to do. There are lessons. Sometimes it's difficult to watch a loved one in those final days, but there is a lesson for us there. There may be a lesson for them. God may be working to restore a relationship with someone we don't know. It's in His hands, and none of us should have that capability. We've got to go to break here in just a minute. I want to give you the last minute before we head to break.
Well, like a lot of organizations, we sell a healthcare directive document. We have one that is for different states in the U.S. We have another different ones for Canada, for the different provinces of Canada. And the reason is obvious that these are situations where you want to have the right language in that healthcare directive document. But the biggest thing also is that you should appoint the right person who makes decisions for you when you can't make them for yourself. You can't appoint someone who's going to do something like this to you. You just can't do that. I always tell people, don't appoint just your oldest son or oldest daughter to be your power of attorney in your healthcare directive. Don't do that. Appoint someone who you trust, someone who might be someone who goes to church with you. It might be your youngest son or daughter because maybe they share your perspective and they care about you enough they wouldn't do this to you. But you just don't appoint anybody over these healthcare decisions. You just don't do that. And the same thing with finances, but healthcare is even worse because they can make decisions around your life and death then if you've signed it over to them.
Alex Schadenberg is my guest today. We're going to head to our third and final break. We'll come back, close out the show, and I have a couple more things. I have the story, I believe, out of Texas. Believe it or not, an ex-wife might have helped somebody in their life. Hard to imagine, isn't it? Not really. Stay tuned.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world, and it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
I'm doing a quick search. Assisted suicide, assisted dying is legal in 10 states, 1 federal district in America. Oregon was the first state in 1997. Now, that's from dignityindying.org. So I don't know how accurate that may be, and there are other states that have lists, but that's what I think I have right now. Alex, do you know any different for America as far as the number of states that allow assisted suicide or euthanasia, and what might be the difference for our viewers?
So I have bad news for you. It's actually 13 states that now have assisted suicide in America, because last year, Delaware, Illinois, and New York all passed assisted suicide laws. So that puts you up to 13. Now you also have a situation where there is technically no euthanasia approved in the US, but you definitely have euthanasia happening. Now, so what's the difference between the two? So the difference is who does the act. So in euthanasia, the doctor injects you with the lethal poison. And I say poison on purpose because the drug concoction is designed to kill you, and that makes it a type of a poison. It's designed to cause your death. In the case of assisted suicide, it's a very similar type of a lethal concoction, but instead the doctor or nurse in some cases will then prescribe that lethal dose, but it comes to you in a powder format because you have to consume it yourself. So they will then prescribe to you the same drug type mixture, but in a powder format. It then dissolves in a drink and you have to consume it, and it will of course cause your death. Now, these deaths are not as peaceful as the other side would want you to believe. So if you look at the data, for instance, in Oregon in 2023, the 2023 data showed that one of those deaths took 137 hours to be completed, meaning they took the lethal powder, the poison, and they didn't die for 137 hours. You start doing your math, you realize that's more than 5 days, is actually approaching 6 days that person would have laid in bed dying. Okay. Last year, if you look at the Oregon report that just came out, the one that just came out on April 1st, it shows you that they had at least one death that was 122 hours. So once again, that's more than 5 days that person laid in bed dying after taking this lethal powder. So this is this type of situation. They call it a death with dignity. In fact, these are not deaths with dignity in any way, shape, or form of how you describe it. On top of it, it's abandonment. And I say that earlier. Why is this? Because yes, people go through difficult times in their life, but when we look at the actual data, very few people are actually asking for the reasons that it's sold to us. So they come up, the death lobby comes up with this slick campaign to say, well, people are suffering. People who are nearing death are, uncontrollably suffering. We need to provide them relief of that suffering, so we're going to kill them. Now, they wouldn't call it killing, obviously. But that's what it is. That's what it's all about. And it's an act that they're doing to you, right? They are approving this on you. You might have to request it, but I mean, they're approving this on you. So it's not a sole act that I do to myself. It's something that someone else is directly involved in. But the fact of it is what they're actually saying is most of the people are actually asking for this for social reasons. That if you look at the reports that are coming out, you see that fear of pain and issues around pain are actually like the 7th reason. So when they ask you why you're asking for this, and you see this in the Oregon Assisted Suicide Report, pain or fear of pain is right near the bottom of the list. Same thing in Canada. Pain or fear of pain, it's near the bottom of the list as to why people are actually asking for it. Most of these people are actually going through what you would call suicidal ideation. Now, so the difference between assisted suicide and euthanasia is not in the intention. The intention is death. It's not in the lethal drug, the lethal poison. They're very similar. The difference is how it's carried out. You don't have euthanasia in the U.S., but the other thing about the laws, there's no oversight of the laws. So I'm opposed to killing people. It doesn't matter whether it be by giving someone the lethal poison powders or whether it's to inject you. I'm opposed to killing people. I think it's a horrific idea. I don't feel safe in a place where my doctor would have the right to kill me. I just don't think that's ever a safe idea. But nonetheless, if you look at it, there's no effective oversight of the laws, and we could do a whole show about how these laws, they don't even control how they work. And I'll give you a prime example. In Oregon, the 2025 data recently came out. There were 90 people who received the lethal powder. They know they died. They know they received the lethal powder, but the Oregon Health Authority has no idea what happened to them. They have no idea. So when they're looking at the data, it shows you the number of deaths that they recorded, assisted suicide deaths. But there's this whole other group. They might have died by assisted suicide, but no report was ever filed. They have no idea if this person died by assisted suicide or not. All they know is they were approved for assisted suicide. They received the lethal powder, poison powder, but they don't know how they died. They just have no idea. This is the kind of thing you get. And that's just the surface of it, because the reality is there's no real effective oversight over these laws.
So as you mentioned, 13 states, this may now sadly be legal. What can our viewers do if they're in a state to ensure that it doesn't become law? If they're in a state, can they help overturn the law? Do you think it's possible?
Well, it's definitely possible in several states that have just recently legalized. So Delaware, New York, Illinois have just recently legalized. And so we are hoping that there's a big pushback. But let me tell you, more than anything else, Tamara, is that elections have consequences. People go into elections and they say, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, I'm not, and I understand, we all have our emotions about people, we don't love everybody, I get it, but the fact of it is you have to say, this person holds these values, and that's how I'm voting. I don't have to love the person. I have to recognize that if I vote for someone who doesn't share my values at all, guess what? They're going to give you what they told you they were going to give you. So people saying, I'm not going to vote the same way this year. Well, guess what? It's going to get a lot worse very fast if you start electing other people. So certain states have elected a lot of anti-life people. It's awfully hard to protect people's lives in a state that has elected anti-life legislators. It's very hard to do so because those legislators already hold a worldview. It's that simple.
And as we've talked about, the slippery slope, how quickly it becomes. I mean, you've got situations we've talked about before where the individual didn't offer to have assisted suicide. A doctor made the choice for them. And in the show we did in 2025 in October, we were talking about the demand for organ, and people have said euthanasia helps with organ transplants, harvesting organs. It's already a very dangerous situation in America where people are being put in to have their organs transferred, and they're not meeting the criteria, meaning they still could walk away, they could still be alive if given the opportunity. We have testimonies of that actually being the case. So this is such a dark road.
We could do a show on organ donation with what's happened. And let's be brutally honest, Tamara, people should not sign their organ donor cards. Not because it's wrong to give an organ if you are actually dead, but how can I actually prove that you will be dead considering the change in ethics across America?
Yes, Dr. Heidi Klesick has been a great guest to this show. Her book, The Brain Death Fallacy. And it's such an emotional issue when people are at that point. It's hard to talk to someone once their family member is in that shape. But all the more reason we need to educate today, like we're doing right now, before you have a loved one in this situation, before you find yourself in this situation. Alex, how can people find you?
Euthanasia Prevention Coalition is very easy to find by Googling us, but it's epcc.ca. Now, the most important place to go, though, is the blog. So if you go to the website, you'll notice the blog. You click on the blog. The blog, the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition blog, is the world's most it's the largest source of information on euthanasia assisted suicide in the world. I've been maintaining it since 2007. Tamara was referring to some of the articles there. And I also do it in such a way that if you're looking for like information on any one state, so let's say you live in New York and you want to find out what's happening in New York and that assisted suicide in New York, that bill that recently passed, you would just click on New York and you'd find out all the information about New York. And everything's done with easy clicks to the original articles. So, you don't have to believe me. You can go to the original article and you realize I haven't made anything up. Some of this stuff, you can't make up, actually. Some of this stuff is pretty horrific, and my imagination is not that great to be able to make this stuff up. I wish it weren't true, but it is true that what's going on.
And it shouldn't surprise any of us that money trumps morals morality in too many cases. Alex Schadenberg has been my guest today. He's the Executive Director of Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, as he said, epcc.ca. And the Blogspot is it's just such a great resource for you to have available. Alex, thank you for taking time out to be with us today. Thank you for all the work you do to educate us on this issue. To our viewers, we tell you, live boldly, love better, laugh bigger. Be encouraged and never be complacent.